Welcome back to the next video from Animation Universal. Today, I'll tell you about the most famous emperor in French history, Napoleon Bonaparte. Before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to the channel to support us. Now, let's dive right into the story. Napoleon's youth. French Emperor Napoleon Bonaparte is one of the greatest military leaders in the history of France and the world. Napoleon was born on August 15, 1769, in Ajaccio, on the island of Corsica, formerly part of Italy, later sold to France by the Genoese government. He was the fourth of 8 children and the second son of Carlo Bonaparte and Letizia Ramolino. At the age of 9, Napoleon was sent by his father to study at the military school in Brienne-le-Château, a small town near Troyes, France. Napoleon was a sensitive and lonely teenager who was often bullied by his classmates. This cruelty drove him to withdraw into himself and dream of the greatness that would later define his legacy. Napoleon excelled in mathematics but performed only moderately well in other subjects. In 1784, he was admitted to the Military Academy of Paris, specializing in artillery. At the academy, he held the rank of cadet and was ranked 42nd out of 58 new officers. After graduating, Napoleon served in the Lefebvre Artillery Regiment, stationed in Valence, a training school for young artillery officers. He continued to educate himself by reading extensively about tactics and strategy, studying works by Voltaire and Rousseau, and even writing his own stories. These writings culminated in a collection titled Letters on Corsica, Lettres sur la Corse, which expressed his feelings toward France. On July 14, 1789, the French Revolution broke out, toppling the monarchy. Napoleon actively joined the Jacobin Club while holding the rank of lieutenant. To avoid the influence of British forces on Corsica, Napoleon moved his family to Marseille, France. The French Revolution shook all of Europe, prompting feudal forces across the continent to unite and attack France. Revolutionary armies won victories wherever they went, but the southern port of Toulon remained under the control of royalists and British forces. In October 1795, Napoleon was promoted to captain and took direct command of the army during the siege of Toulon, which was then occupied by British forces. As an artillery commander, he demonstrated his extensive military knowledge. By the end of 1795, Napoleon successfully expelled the British from the city. His triumph at Toulon earned him nationwide fame across France. A historic turning point. In 1795, after a period of being overlooked, fortune smiled upon Napoleon once again. When royalist forces incited a rebellion in Paris, the situation grew increasingly dire. The government appointed Napoleon as an aide to Viscount Barras, commander of the Parisian Guard. Armed with artillery, Napoleon swiftly crushed the rebellion, paving the way for his rapid rise to prominence. In 1796, Britain, Russia, and Austria formed an alliance to launch a concentrated attack on France. The French government deployed 4 armies to counter the threat. Napoleon was appointed commander of the 4th Army, tasked with invading Italy to counter Austrian forces. In a short time, he routed the Austrian army in Italy and advanced into Austrian territory. His formidable forces marched close to Vienna, forcing Austria to sign a truce. Napoleon's triumphant army returned to Paris in glorious victory, earning him recognition as a brilliant military tactician and a statesman of profound global influence. His status as one of history's greatest leaders is indisputable, yet there remain many lesser-known facets of his life. To decisively defeat Britain, the French government decided in 1798 to launch a campaign in Egypt to cut off British access to India. Napoleon was appointed commander of the Eastern Expeditionary Army, and he swiftly seized control of Egypt. He brought over 35,000 troops, including numerous experts from various fields, such as mathematicians Monge, Joseph Fourier, Laplace, and Berthollet. The French army achieved a resounding victory against the Egyptian Mamluks at the Battle of the Pyramids, but their attempts to capture Fort Acre in modern-day Israel were unsuccessful. The fortress, bolstered by the British fleet under Admiral Sidney Smith, proved impenetrable. Napoleon's leadership strategy. After the Treaty of Tilsit in 1807, Napoleon reached an agreement with the Russian Tsar and began reorganizing the economies of the territories he had conquered. However, as he could not defeat Britain militarily, Napoleon sought to weaken it economically by preventing British ships from accessing European markets. This economic warfare, known as the Continental System, aimed to strangle Britain by banning any British ships from docking at European ports. Even non-British merchant ships were not exempt, and any vessels flying the British flag were completely destroyed. To sustain this economic blockade, Napoleon deemed it necessary to control European coastlines, including those in Germany, Italy, Spain, and Norway, to combat smuggling. However, in response to the French invasion, the people of Spain and Austria revolted. By July 1810, French forces had brutally suppressed these uprisings and restored order. Realizing that Russia was still trading with Britain, Napoleon decided to invade the Russian Empire in 1812, mobilizing an enormous army of nearly 650,000 troops. To defend their homeland, the Russians assembled a massive force of 700,000 to 750,000 soldiers, although many were poorly equipped. Only about 450,000 regular troops were armed with firearms. The rest consisted of militias and Cossack cavalry. Fueled by patriotic fervor, the Russian people were determined to avenge their earlier defeats at Austerlitz and Friedland, to overturn the humiliating peace imposed by the Treaty of Tilsit, and to reject the idea of becoming Napoleon's vassals. Marshal Mikhail Illarionovich Kutuzov, a celebrated general respected by both the Russian military and civilians, was appointed commander-in-chief of the Russian forces resisting Napoleon. In the fiercely contested Battle of Borodino, the Russian army inflicted heavy losses on the invaders before gradually retreating to preserve their forces. This battle dealt a severe blow to Napoleon's ambitions and his authoritarian regime. Napoleon failed in his primary objective of annihilating the Russian army in a single decisive battle. Although Napoleon advanced to capture Moscow, the Russian army continued to resist fiercely, frequently launching raids on the invaders. Napoleon attempted to rally support from anti-government peasant groups, but was unsuccessful. In October 1812, Napoleon was forced to order a retreat from Russia. During the retreat, the French army faced relentless Russian pursuit and suffered devastating losses. By the time they exited Russian territory, Napoleon's forces had been reduced to 127,000 soldiers. However, with many troops stationed along the route to maintain communication lines, the actual number of combat-ready soldiers was closer to 30,000. Napoleon's first abdication. The European generals, realizing they could not defeat Napoleon militarily, used political power to bring him down. The coalition forces captured Paris while Napoleon was unprepared. By early 1814, he was forced to abdicate and was exiled to Elba, a small island off the coast of Italy. The Bourbon monarchy was restored under King Louis XIV, the younger brother of King Louis XVI. The monarchy began reclaiming the territories lost during the Revolution. On May 30, 1814, France regained its borders. However, the French people and soldiers longed for Napoleon's return. Without him, King Louis XIII faced numerous political difficulties, causing France to weaken gradually. The industrial sector developed slowly, while Britain grew significantly wealthier thanks to its economic progress. On a March evening in 1815, Napoleon secretly returned from Elba and arrived in Lyon. The Bourbon monarchy sent numerous regiments to confront him, but one after another, they rallied to Napoleon's side shouting, "Long live the Emperor," and joined his ranks. Napoleon reclaimed the French throne without firing a single shot. News of Napoleon's return sent shockwaves through Europe. In panic, the European powers formed another alliance and mobilized their forces from all directions to invade France. This time, the coalition was led by Prussia and Britain, with their main forces concentrating in Belgium. Napoleon, commanding the French army, managed to defeat several coalition contingents. The Battle of Waterloo occurred on Sunday, June 18, 1815, near Waterloo in present-day Belgium. The French Imperial Army, led by Napoleon Bonaparte, was defeated by the coalition forces of the Seventh Coalition, consisting of British and Allied troops under the command of the Duke of Wellington, and Prussian forces under Gebhard von Blücher. This battle marked the end of the Waterloo campaign and was Napoleon's final battle. His defeat at Waterloo ended his reign as Emperor of France and concluded his 100 days' return to power. The Second Abdication. Napoleon was deposed for the second time and exiled to St. Helena, a remote island in the South Atlantic, where he spent the remainder of his life. The once mighty French emperor, who had dominated Europe, passed away on May 5, 1821, at the age of 52. His last words were reported to be, "France, Army, forward." In 1840, the French government brought his remains back to Paris, where he was laid to rest at the Les Invalides. According to recent studies, Napoleon likely died of stomach cancer rather than being poisoned, as was previously speculated. Today, many monuments in France commemorate Napoleon, and they remain popular tourist attractions. Napoleon founded the Bonaparte dynasty and served as Emperor of France from 1804 to 1815, under the title Napoleon I. He is remembered in history as one of the greatest military commanders of all time. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to never miss our intriguing videos. Thank you so much. For now, goodbye and see you next time.